Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Orchard Report. I'm your host, William Trout, and today we're going to discuss the Buffalo Bills' loss at the Denver Broncos this past weekend by the score of 33 to 30 in overtime. A thriller of a game, so we'll get into that, and then also the absolutely shocking news that the Buffalo Bills did part ways with Coach Sean McDermott, the coach who brought us a lot of success. So we'll go ahead and dive into both of those topics today on the Orchard Report. Let's go. So as I said in the open, the Buffalo Bills did lose to the Denver Broncos by the score of 33 to 30. A pretty crazy game, back and forth, a lot of turnovers. Went into overtime, and a game we thought maybe we could, or not maybe, you thought we were going to get it done. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to make the plays when we needed it, and just took the L there. How many games are you going to win with 5 turnovers? Early in the game there, we were up. We'd already gone and scored, going to take what was looking like a 14-3 lead, and then we get into plus territory, and then James fumbles, and all the momentum we had that, coming out and playing complimentary football, making stops on defense, and then, all of a sudden they turn around and they score, and then they're up. We were about to make it a 2 possession game. They flip it right back, and we're now down. And then before half, you have Josh trying to be a hero, doing too much when we could have easily just taken a kneel, gone into half. Which, you can make the argument that we need to go for points, but at the same time in the playoffs, I'd much rather just take a kneel there and go into halftime and regroup than try and do way too much and just have that negative there and get the +3 for them going into halftime, where they'd already gotten momentum with that big play, and then to put it 3 right on top of it, I really don't like that. And then coming out of halftime, immediately have the sack fumble from Nick Benito, who we knew was going to be a factor in the game. It's stuff you can't have. There's just not many games, if any, that you're ever going to win with 5 turnovers. I don't care how you spin it. It's not winning football. And then on top of that, where the defense played well, in most areas, but you have injuries in the secondary where guys have to go out for a play, and then immediately you have touchdowns. It was Darnell Savage before half who got caught. They were doing like a crossing route, and they banged it back outside, and Darnell got beat by little Jordan Humphrey. And then later on in the game, Dane Jackson has to come in and gets beat by Marvin Mims. So just having inopportune luck with injuries, and then when the guys come in and step in, you have them going on an island, and you can't really have that. We need coaching to be able to step up and give them, at least a little bit of some cushion, or somebody that can help them over the top, just so if they do get beat, it's not one-on-one and just immediate touchdown, which happens in both of those scenarios. And if those don't happen, if we do have our guys in there in that situation, you're thinking maybe we make big stops there, we hold them to 3, that changes the way the game is played. Just there's a lot of things that just have you thinking, man, if we could have just done this. Which I know that's what football is. It's a game of small moments and being able to make plays in clutch moments, but it just has you kicking yourself. And maybe that's, and we'll get into it later, maybe that is at the end of the day why you let a Sean McDermott go, because when it comes down to small things like that, where your team overall is playing pretty well, but you just keep having these turnovers and these small mistakes. Outside of the 5 turnovers, we scored the ball every time we touched it. We had 99th percentile success rate, and I mean, it's just frustrating. And then on top of that, we can't get pressure on Bo Nix. We didn't sack him once. We had the lowest pressure rates of any team in the divisional rounds. The defensive line we invest so much in, it just isn't showing up. We want Bosa to be there to be a closer. That's why we brought him in. He didn't show up at all. And then the young guys, as well as Deion Walker, played. We just don't have enough around him to really collapse a pocket. You're getting pressure from one guy, but it's not complimentary. It's not a cage rush, if you will. It's not something where you're going to get Bo Nix uncomfortable. He was able to sit back there and really survey and make the throws. And when he saw him, for the most part, he was hitting him. I mean, there was a couple that he missed, but more or less, I mean, he was 26 for 46. So, I mean, with the one pick, that was to Deion. So, other than that one kind of blemish, more or less, he was doing what he wanted. And then the catch that wasn't, that's, as we were all probably seen a million times by now. I do believe it was a catch, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to let the game come down to the officials. We had the opportunities to win. Josh could have hit Mecole Hardman earlier in the drive, and he could have hit Dawson Knox to win the game potentially before we had to kick it to go in overtime. So there's plays that could have been made and that were on the table for us to make to win that game, and we didn't do it. So as much as I do think that was a catch and we should be celebrating a victory, I just don't think when it comes down to it that we made the plays. So that's why that we're going to be calling it, the end of the year, and the Broncos are going to the AFC Championship, because at the end of the day, we didn't make the plays, and our top guys, the guys who we rely on, they didn't do it. So, and on top of that, as I alluded to, or as I talked about in the intro, Sean McDermott was relieved of his duties by Terry Pegula, a move that I was absolutely stunned by. I really just didn't think he was going to pull that trigger going into a new stadium. I was thinking he was going to want stability, err on the side of, having that continuity. But Pegula said that he walked into that locker room after that Broncos game and just saw a dejected team. His quarterback, he said, wouldn't acknowledge him, which, I mean, come on, he just lost a crazy game into the season. I'm not sure if that's the greatest point, but in his eyes, he saw it as they had hit the wall, the proverbial wall, as he said, or as he stated. And I can kind of respect it, or I can respect it in the sense of we've been doing this a lot. Almost every year we have this same feeling of if it was just these small things that we'd be in the Super Bowl, or we would be maybe even 1-1 by now. And he sees a quarterback who is arguably the best in football, and he hasn't even made it there. So I do respect it, the ability to look at what he's got as not just an owner but a fan and say, this has run its course and it's time to look at other options. But I am surprised that he actually did it, just with everything that we have and the situation, especially on top of keeping keeping Bean. Initially, I thought it was like a power play. It felt like Bean got in Pegula's ear and made it seem like it was all McDermott's fault. And maybe that was the case, but after the press conference, I really do think it was just all Terry, and that he saw everything and how it was all going down, and he thinks that the roster is good enough, which, I don't necessarily think it's the best roster, but at the end of the day, it's a good enough roster to compete. And Pegula seems to think in that type of way. He thinks this is good enough to have gotten over the top, especially when you have this level of quarterback play. And he just thinks that McDermott at the end of the day didn't get them coaching and get them to a position where they could get over the top. and at the end of the day, he thinks somebody else can be inserted and do that for us. So whether or not you agree, that is the way we're going to go. And um, it's a risky proposition, but I think it is something where, hey, if you bring the right mind in, maybe it is something that can get us over the top. So real quick, we can jump into the list of guys that we have interviewed and the guys that I personally would like for them to at least bring in an interview and potentially hire. So the list that we've got here is that we already have interviewed. We have interviewed Mike McDaniel. We have interviewed Lou Anarumo. We've put in a request to interview Phillip Rivers. We've interviewed Anthony Lynn. We've interviewed Joe Brady and Brian Dable. I'm going to go back through that one more time just and give some context on those. So we have interviewed Mike McDaniel, who's the former Miami Dolphins head coach and was hired to be the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. We've interviewed Lou Anarumo, who is the Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator and was previously the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. We interviewed Phillip Rivers, who is the he was previously the Indianapolis Colts quarterback and also the Chargers quarterback. We've interviewed Anthony Lynn, who is currently the Washington Commanders running backs coach and was previously the interim head coach for the Buffalo Bills when we fired Rex Ryan. We interviewed Joe Brady, the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator currently. That just happened. We've interviewed Brian Dable, who was the previous New York Giants head coach and was also previously the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator. We've also put in requests to interview Grant Udinski, the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive coordinator. And then additional names I personally would like them to interview and hire would be Clint Kubiak, the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator, Davis Webb, the Denver Broncos quarterback coach, and then Nate Scheelhaus, the Los Angeles Rams passing games coordinator. The reason at this point that we haven't interviewed these individuals is because they are part of teams that are playing in the championship games. So that'll be like Denver, Seattle, for example. We cannot formally interview them until after the Super Bowl. This is a rule that's in place, so we can't actually talk to them formally until after the Super Bowl. So it is a bit of a risk in the sense of if you do wait for one of those individuals and you aren't able to get a coach early in the cycle, then you kind of run the risk of leaving yourself in no man's land. So that is something to keep in mind when you're thinking about some of these names. I'm hoping it could be somebody who can push Josh, who's not going to be buddy-buddy as people have outlined. I don't really want somebody who's going to come in here and just be like, what's up, Josh, my buddy? We need somebody who's going to push him to be better, push him to be the best quarterback he can possibly be, which I think is something that McDermott previously was. So I think that's something we need to keep in mind. I know there's people that put or cast doubt in Pegula's ability to make a good selection when it comes to a head coach. So I think that is at least something that it is nice when we're keeping Bean, is that we don't have to necessarily think of Pegula doing this by himself completely. So that is something that I think will be nice as far as having Bean stay on. And I know many have their doubts in his ability to find talent. I am definitely one of them in many ways. I do think it is nice to have continuity and somebody who knows the pulse of this team and how it functions. I don't necessarily believe he should have gotten a promotion in all of this when he got promoted to president of football operations. Because I do think he's as much to blame as anybody, especially as McDermott. But that's as somebody from the outside looking in. And at the end of the day, Pegula owns the team. He's in it every day, and we just have to hope he knows what he's doing when he's making these decisions. So I'm excited for the future of the Buffalo Bills. I am scared that that they wouldn't make a decision that will be at the detriment of the team. But I I know that we have Josh Allen, and that covers up a lot. And I'm just going to hope that they bring in somebody that's a smart offensive mind who can push Josh to be the best that he can be, and was going to be a great play caller and someone who can bring some creativity and just some fun to this offense and to this team in general, and somebody who can potentially get us over the hump. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Orchard Report to talk the season ending of the Buffalo Bills. It was a sad kind of ending there, but as always, I'm happy to be a fan of this team, fan of everything that they're doing, even when it's stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. I love this team, and I love the community that comes along with it. I love being a fan of our quarterback Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the NFL, and no matter what, I'm going to ride with him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do when it comes to head coach, and I'll be here in the coming days and weeks to talk everything that comes to fruition, and hopefully they make a great decision. And we're talking about a future Super Bowl head coach. So, as always, go Bills, and thanks again for supporting the Orchard Report. We'll talk to you soon.